15 founder laws that I learned the hard way. Welcome back to another episode of the Founders Bar podcast. You may notice that I'm by myself this week. Unfortunately, Kylie is feeling unwell and we wish her best regards. She's actually not been very well for the last sort of week and a half. We've just got back from Ibiza, which was a fantastic trip with friends and family. And we're back for another episode of the Founders Bar podcast. So get yourself a drink. I am drinking Inch's 0% after a long week at work. As always, we cheers to the weekend. I hope you've had a productive week. And I wanted to do something a little bit different in this podcast because with Kylie not being here, I thought we are committed to publishing every Friday for you. And I wanted to get this out. So what is this? This is actually my journal from 2015. And when we first got started, before we got started, I was actually wanting to go into this, capturing thoughts, ideas, emotions, experiences, positive, negative. And I actually been journaling throughout all this time. Over the years, I've gone from like sort of physical journals to more electronic, kind of on my phone, laptop, Evernote, things of this nature. But I've always kept this. And the reason why I've kept it, it reminds me of the initial days. I can still actually smell this. And I used to write in it literally all the time, every day. And I thought to myself, how interesting would it be to take photos of every single page, everything that I wrote down in this, and I've put it all into ChatGPT and I asked it to summarize this for me, to bring out the lessons, to bring out the thoughts, the emotions, the real life experience of being a founder. And what was really interesting is it recommended me to create a book, The Founders Laws, What Founders Learn the Hard Way. And I thought, why not take this opportunity just to have a conversation with you and actually share with you each of these laws and give you the opportunity to interact and give me your thoughts, what resonates with you the most. These are real lessons that have been taken from real emotions, real times, dates. I journaled late at night when the kids and the family was in bed. I went through the first experiences, and what I absolutely love about this, and that's why I've never obviously got rid of it, this is the real-time experience, the real-time emotions, the real-time lessons learned. And many times we can go through an experience and then reflect back and share the big lessons, but this is actually real life lessons at the time. So cheers to you, cheers to another successful week, and let's dive in. So here's the first founder law. The day you commit changes everything. This was actually a journal quote. Quit job, the real work starts. And what it said is the moment entrepreneurship becomes real. So the day you commit changes everything. I remember actually specifically journaling about this because I was actually working full time at the time, and I was full time working mornings, evenings, anytime you possibly can on starting the business. And I remember distinctly the first real milestone was like life-changing milestone. I've got to quit the job. I've got to commit to achieve the goal, the start line, if you like, of being able to quit the job. And in order to do that, you have to commit, right? So that's why a founder law is like the day you commit changes everything. If you're getting just started right now and you are thinking of entrepreneurship, you know there's something in you as a calling, whatever you want to call it, there's a calling, there's an inner voice, there's an emotion going like, I'm meant for more. I know I want to do something. I know I want to build something. I know I want to change people's lives. Whatever it is, I know I want to create this business. Then really just ask yourself the question, have you really committed? That's what a law is, all right? The day you commit changes everything. And a journal quote, quit the job, the real work starts then. The second law, this is really, really interesting, and it's going to share with you why some people can find themselves hesitating. Found the law 2. Possibility does not equal probability. Possibility does not equal probability. Now, this is, there's multiple different quotes, and it's all based around fear. It's all based around like, what if this happens and what if that happens? I used to write down my kind of maybe anxieties or losses, and possibility does not equal probability. So what that basically means is there's always a possibility that you can fail, I can fail, we can lose time, we can lose money, we can make a mistake, we can inadvertently do something incorrectly, there's so many different possibilities. When you think of the worst, ultimate failure, shame, rejection, losing everything, to the absolute version of success, right? Being able to be free, time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. There's a big kind of spectrum of possibilities. But possibility is not the same as probability. So whenever we come across different challenges and experiences, I remember for the first number of months, you're experiencing things for the first time. You don't know what it means. You're trying to problem solve, and all the possibilities come in your mind. Well, this is not good. This could equal failure. Or this is really good. Does that equal success? But probability is actually something that we can control, right? So what's actually the probability of something going wrong before you take action? So let me give you an example. I was very much kind of working out the system and the structured process of what do we buy, what do we sell, where do we source, how do we ship, how do we create our first initial kind of processes and systems. And when you identify a product, for example, right? So if you decided you're going to buy and sell this, which obviously from an alcohol point of view, I just never did, and it requires licenses and everything else. But let's say the possibility of buying something to sell could mean it just doesn't sell and you lose that money. But the probability based on the research, the data, the historical, like the logic, I can see this particular product has a demand, it's got real sales, it's sold X amount of times. Let's say it's sold 100 times every single month for the last 6 months, and now I'm going to source 10 of them. What's the true balance between the possibility it just doesn't sell and what's actually the probability? The possibility, of course, it doesn't sell, but the probability is really, really low. Like, it's going to be near enough guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed, but it's going to be 90+% that if something's been selling for 100 units, 100 units, 100 units, 100 units, what's the likelihood that the moment that you make it ready for sale, that it's not then going to sell? So that's where the possibility does not equal probability comes from. So think about it in your own journey. The things that you maybe be worried about, anxiety about, afraid of, does that actually result in, there is a possibility that something don't work, but what's the probability when you can take action? Is this making sense? That's a really interesting takeaway. Found the law 3. Massive action creates massive momentum. And the journal quote that I wrote down multiple times, massive action equals massive success, right? So in my journal here, let me see if I can specifically show you that, because I remember literally drawing it out. What page was it? So like, I'll give you an example. Like this was like my personal development page. So I wrote down like work on yourself, learn, study, read, design future, change yourself, changes everything. Ask yourself why read, why earn all you can. Ask yourself why not. Ask yourself why not you. And finally, why not now? What will I become doing this? All I possibly can. Simple truths. Profit is better than wages. Wages make a living. Profit makes a fortune. Work for yourself. Possibilities are endless. Work. Make goals. Analyze. Reflect. Learn. Adapt. Make progress forward. Life should be lived, not worked. This was chapter 2 in August, the 2nd of August. I put number 1, massive action. Massive action brings massive success. Fascinating, really is. So massive action is what it's going to take for you to achieve goals. If you only take small actions, and what's the definition of massive action to me? Massive action to me is taking an action that commits you without choice to move forward. And that massive action can feel uncomfortable, it can feel fearful, it can feel anxiety, worry, can I do this? Can I not do this? Uncertainty. But if you have the courage, I'm not talking about being reckless here, just to be clear. I'm not talking about doing something that's completely irrational. But if you've got the courage and you've got all the information that you can to take massive action that pushes you forward, it's going to result in massive success. It's not guaranteed, and nothing is. There's no guarantees in anything, but take massive action. If that don't work, take massive action. If that don't work, change it. If that don't work, change it. If that don't work, change it. If you keep going, you will keep making progress. It's a law. Found the law 4. The first win changes everything. I literally have in my quote, in my journal, first sales today, and I even put in there, quote, £500 over the last 2 days. Now that changes everything to me at that moment in time. I'd never sold anything at that point. So to do £500 sales in 2 days, like that's big deal. And the evidence of it something being real actually creates permanent changes in belief that you did it or I did it back then. So if you haven't got your first win at this moment in time, a law or recommendation, a part of this this kind of podcast here, is just go to that first win. Because if you can get that first win, it will change your belief forever, that you know it's real. Found the law 5. Momentum is easier to keep than restart. I put a journal quote, need to continue this swing. Because momentum is so hard to get started, and when you lose it, it's hard to restart. So momentum to me is all about kind of 4 components. It's like, what is the potential? If you have potential, if you can see potential in what you're trying to do in your business, then once you see it, then you take action, right? You want to take some form of action, massive action, as we've just said. Once you take that massive action and you see then some type of result, it's either going to be a positive result or a negative result. But momentum, if you get a positive result, it's going to reinforce your belief. And then that belief is then going to reconfirm the potential. The potential goes to taking more action. more action equals more results. It reaffirms then and strengthens the belief. So you've got like a momentum cycle. So it's all about, number one, each of them are important, but it's all about action, results, belief. Action, results, belief, potential. What's happening? And it can work the other way around too. So if you take action, you don't get the results, it can confirm that the results are not possible, and that might get you down, and that might prevent you from having momentum. But you go back to what I said before. Take massive action. If that don't work, change it, go again. Change it, go again, until something does. Reaffirm that belief that what you're doing is possible. Is this making sense so far? Let me know down below if you're enjoying the podcast in general from me and Kylie. We've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. Let's go on to the next one. So the next one is Founder Law 6. Your money blueprint controls your business. Journal quote. I was really thinking about, number one, quitting the career. That would mean a pay cut. I was working obviously full time. I was on salary. I was on a good salary, electrical engineer. And the first kind of money kind of blueprints, I was like, what can we live on? What can't we live on? I started to learn about specifically like what personality that I have with money, what relationship do I have with money, because your money blueprint, you could either be a saver, a spender, an avoider, and these personalities, this relationship that we have with currency can change the way we act, can change the way that we build. You might be more hesitant, you might be more fearful, you might be more, let's go, let's make it happen. And each of them have got pros and cons. But I remember very early on that sense of, okay, a career, a job gives you a sense of security, and then when you're working for yourself, you don't have that security. So how much uncertainty can you withstand? And then with that uncertainty comes financial commitments, family, myself and Kylie, home, children. So your money blueprint controls ultimately the decisions that you make or can be making. And it's interesting if you just dig down deeper into that, and there's a lot of things I could expand on. It's an interesting law. It really is. Law number 7, leave a profit everywhere. I remember learning this from Jim Rohn, and I referenced Jim Rohn quite a lot in there. He said, wherever you go, leave a profit. Whether you are leaving a profit in a conversation that you're having, you're meeting somebody, you're in a coffee shop, you go to the supermarket, you're speaking with your friends, your family, a stranger, creating a business, right? The goal is to make everywhere you go better, just in some way. Because if you leave a profit everywhere, then ultimately that, whichever way you want to see it, call it, you want to share with the universe that you're here for good and you're here to make things better. And I don't know, I think it does come back to you. Founder Law 8, fast cash creates slow thinking. This is really interesting because I remember distinctly writing about what does it mean in the short term, but also the long term. And I was very, very conscious very early on about what the probability or what the likelihood of business success over the next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, where would we be in 10 years? Like talking to you after our sort of 11-year anniversary, is like I remember thinking the statistics of 10-year success and do businesses survive that long? And I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to build a business, not just for 10 years, but for, a legacy, for like, how can you build a business that can last for 100 years? And that gives you the ability to think long term. And if you get fast cash, right, in terms of like slow thinking, you never want to chase. I always thought any investment that we make, any decision that we make, any system that we implement, I always used to think that like it wants to be, we want to be long-term thinking. And even if you have a massive increase, and specific quote, we experienced a significant increase in sales, which was amazing. But that significant increase can be volatile, and seasons can take over. You might have a product that you were selling that that you can't source anymore. And specifically, I was thinking about that. It was great to find a really good products that I could sell, and they gave us great spikes in profitability and revenue. But at the same time, these can also hide realities, and if you can't replenish at that level, so long-term thinking. Founder Law 9, growth feels heavy before it feels free. So I've got a journal quote here. It's crazy the amount of things I have to think about. At the time, obviously juggling both personal, professional, business, there was a lot that was going on. My mind there was many times where my mind, I felt like my mind was racing and racing and racing. You're constantly thinking, what do I have to do? What actions? I have to make sure I do this. I have to send that email. I have to do this. So growth can feel heavy before it comes free. So just know, going on the journey, you could, it feels heavy. It's maybe not what you've experienced before. I'd never built a business before, and therefore myself and Kylie, this was all completely new, and we've spoken about how we communicate with each other throughout those times. Founder Law 10. Success raises pressure before it raises peace, which is slightly the same as 9, but the journal quote is, it's strange, I literally put that, is it strange to feel anxiety with this amount of success? Let me say that one more time. Is it strange to feel anxiety with this amount of success? See, what's fascinating about me journaling this in real time is I felt like I was getting closer and closer to being able to quit my career, but that then creates anxiety because you're getting successful. But success equals the necessity to then make decisions that can actually change your life and your course for good. At the time, I'd done 8 years of apprenticeship followed by college and university. I'd just become an electrical engineer, and I'm about to quit my career. But I was only able to do that because of the success that I was creating and we were creating. So it's fascinating. So just know that your pressure levels may go higher before you experience the peace that you're after. Number 11, Founder Law 11, responsibility expands faster than revenue. So I was very busy purchasing. I was purchasing all day, the majority of the nights, every night, weekends. I was starting to build our sourcing team. I was starting to build processes, and I was responsible for the purchasing. And with that, obviously, from a revenue perspective, to keep at a certain level, you've got to make sure the inputs to your business continue. I now refer it to growth versus maintenance, right? If you grow your business to a certain level, potential tasks that you're doing, or I'm doing, can turn into maintenance tasks. They were once growth tasks, but now they're maintenance tasks. So, for example, in my case, if I was purchasing £20,000 of product in a month, if I don't purchase that level consistently or more, in particular, if I don't at least hit that, I'm not growing. I've got to do that just to maintain, right? So something to think about with your inputs and outputs is what you're doing. Are you still doing what you was doing maybe 1 year ago, 2 years ago? It's going to get to a point where that action is just the maintenance task. And I think back now, and maybe yourself, if you're an actual founder and you're just founding a business and you're at the start, just think about monitor growth versus maintenance. Founder law 12, the founder becomes the bottleneck quietly. So I have a quote here. I have trying to guide the team as best as I can. So this is interesting because I remember hiring first virtual assistants and trying to create documents and training and SOPs, and it's an example of me trying my hardest to train, to guide, to support, because you're trying to offload tasks, responsibilities, ownership of workflows. And you can, if it's all in your head, or if it's responsible for you and you're competent and there's something that you've been doing all this time and now you are now trying to give it to somebody, or you can become the bottleneck. So it's not like a day where something just sends you an email, Kev, you've become the bottleneck today. It happens. It happens, and you might not be consciously aware that it's happening. So just have a reflection as I think about that one. Founder law 13. I've only got a couple after this. What you tolerate becomes your standards. A journal quote: "Need to improve systems." So systems is something I've always believed in. I believe systems are foundational to business, in all honesty. How you do one thing, what does it look like when that's 100 things? Or that one process, what does it look like when it's trying to do 1,000 of the same? Go to Five Guys, right? Five Guys have a system. And I remember really, really journaling like, that's not working quite well. And I've got this quote, need to improve systems. So just to have a think about that, because what you tolerate becomes your standard. So if you ain't got the right systems and maybe there's issues, maybe there's setbacks, maybe there's frustrations, well, that's a standard that I or you are tolerating, or Kylie, or anybody, right? So what you tolerate becomes your standard. Number 14, from a journal quote, need to review all my calculations and profitability. Because so the law was discounting equals death, right? And I remember distinctly what this is referring to. So we used to want to sell for a specific profit, right? A specific return on investment. And there were some products that were at minimum, so therefore I wasn't getting the buy box, I wasn't able to sell. And maybe other people were selling products for, my 5%, if you like. But I'm looking for 40%, I'm looking for 30%. And I remember distinctly going, I need to recalculate all my calculations, but I really don't want to just discount. I've done all this work, I should be set on the profitability that we're after. And I've always had that mentality of like, there's strategic reasons why you would discount, of course, but if you're trying to build a business, then really, as the saying goes, right, it's profit that you're after. What are you actually making? Because anybody can sell and anybody can generate revenue. But if you generate £100 of revenue and it's cost you £500 to generate that revenue, right, you've just lost a lot of money. So therefore, it's actually better to work towards actually profitability in your business. Number 15 is experience. Experience changes the plan. I put on my journal, need to design a new model. Not sure exactly what I was referring to there. Maybe that was to do with my costing models. But the point really is, as you go and as you commit onto the journey, and the founder journey that it's actually brought down as, number 1, commit. Number 2, fear. Number 3, action. 4, first success. 5, consistency. 6, money. 7, profit. 8, growth. 9, you start to get some complexity. Number 10, you start to get some pressure. Number 11, it creates responsibility. Number 12, it can get some bottlenecks. Number 13 is then standards. Then you start to work on real profitability and then adaptation. So that's I just wanted to share them with you today, guys, at the Founders Bar podcast. I hope it's been worthwhile. I really do wish that Kyla will be better for next week's episode. But let me know down below, did you journal? Have you been capturing your thoughts? I'm likely to put that into some type of maybe ebook or something. Comment down below, let me know if you want me to expand on this in terms of, I really want to, that's my first draft in terms of the laws, but I really want to make this useful. So I'm likely to really recap this over this next number of months, just recap everything, and then create some type of founders laws that we can give, make available as a I don't know, the Founders Bar podcast, kind of whether it's a free gift or whatever the case might be. Just saying thank you for being here, one of our first subscribers, watching. If you've got any questions, any topics whatsoever, then don't hesitate to comment down below. Let us know. We're here to answer your questions as well. My name's Kev. Thank you so much for joining me at the Founders Bar. I'm going to go enjoy the weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.